How's it going, everybody? I'm Josh.
And I'm Austin.
And we're Elder Drunken Highlander. It's another deck tech.
And this one is terrifying, spooky, scary, and otherwise a classic Josh deck.
It's silly. It's very silly. That's the S word that I would use to describe it.
I love it because it just puts everything in the graveyard.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe what it does.
So the name is a little misleading because I feel like when people think Eldrazi, they think not the kind of Eldrazi that we're using. We're using the Eldrazi processors. We're not. Yeah. There's no. You'll see we curve out at 5 for our creatures. There's no Ulamog. There's no ridiculous stuff. We're using stuff like Oracle of Dust. And the thing that the processors do that's like unique is they put a card from an opponent's exile into an opponent's graveyard. And there's my friend the Scarab God here, which take things from my opponent's graveyard and puts it into my opponent's exile. Do you see where I'm going with this?
It is a super fun deck. I have watched Scarab God grow from the first time he played it to the time it became a raid boss, to it getting backdoored and becoming mono black zombies, to this monstrosity here. Yeah. And I love it.
I've had a Scarab God deck for a while, and it's had many iterations, but my favorite iteration was the blue-black control iteration, which was a deck that would cycle the Eldrazi processors to spam my opponents like creatures that had busted things. At the time, people were playing just a bunch of busted creatures in my locals for casual, and I was like, alright, fine, well, I don't want to play busted creatures, I'll just make you regret playing busted creatures. So I did that.
It is very demure in that regard.
Yeah, so this is like a more refined, more extreme version of that philosophy. And we are playing like a little bit of the control game too.
Oh yeah, your sorcery package is entirely just pluck things from their library. But I think your creature package of what are they? Flesh bags.
Yeah, they're all there.
They're all
Look
flesh
at all
bags.
of our friends. Yeah.
It's gonna be a hard time for anyone who plays one creature a turn.
Yeah, because I can recur that every turn with Scarab God to keep my opponents kind of pissed off at me forever.
Yeah, there was a game he was goldfishing, and I swear he dropped 3 in a row. 3 turns. 3 turns in a row. It was just
I kept drawing one and then playing it, and then I took a turn off to play the Scarab God, and the next turn I untapped it, immediately reanimated one. That's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. That's something that I used to do all the time when I played this deck. But that's all about stalling. We play the control game with our instants and sorceries. We don't have a ton of them, but we can recur them. You have to remember, we can recur them very easily. That's all about stalling. And what we really want to do is we want to be taking our opponent's best creatures, putting them into exile, and then putting them into our opponent's graveyard using one of our processors, and then using the Scarab God to recur our opponent's cards to win the game. So we're trying to assemble an infinite mana combo, more or less, using our opponent's cards. We don't have any cards in our deck that really do it. We have like...
We don't combo off.
We have Turnabout, we have Snap, we have High Tide. We have ways to like almost get there for infinite mana, but we really need an opponent's Eternal Witness. We need an opponent's Dockside, a Peregrine Drake.
I watched you do it with a Puppeteer Click and an Ivy Lane Denizen. So.
Yeah, we can do there's any number of ways to get infinite mana from our opponent's creatures, but we need our opponents to be playing combo pieces. Basically, if our opponents aren't playing combo pieces, they're just playing fair, good creatures. We have to instead beat them down with 4/4 and spam edicts, which is also still a viable strategy and pretty good.
And so it's very rude.
Yeah, it's really rude, but it's usually a little bit better and a little bit more fun to be like, nah, man, I see that there's an Eternal Witness in your deck. That means that you're going to lose. Yeah. Eternal Witness lets me make 3 Eternal Witnesses a turn, spam High Tide, Turnabout, and a Tutor. And so.
And is that a Mirror of Fate I spy again?
Yeah. Every busted card your opponent's running, you're going to be able to get access to and steal for the combo turn for this deck. And you're running a bunch of things to just go in and take all those. Life Finale puts 3 creatures in the graveyard.
Necromantic Selection takes things. Bribery takes things.
Unmoored Ego, and all the things that do the same thing as Unmoored Ego, Praetor's Grasp, Necromancer, Lost Legacy, Infinite Obliteration. Bitter Ordeal is probably the best one that you can do, especially with an Edict Effect. You go Edict Effect into Bitter Ordeal, take 4 things from opponents, and then next turn you basically have your combo ready to go. You just need a mana, and we have a lot of mana. We have 21 artifacts, and almost all of them make mana in this deck. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get as much mana as possible, go super hard with the mana factory, so that we can then use our insane amount of mana to generate infinite mana, and then kill our opponents.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple strategy. So yeah, you You just like, especially with stuff like, where is he, Oracle of Dust, which is repeatable through just paying 2 mana, and then you draw and discard, which is even more sweet. You can just go off.
Zombie apocalypse, everybody.
It is the fucking Cthulhu zombie apocalypse. Yeah. It is great.
Look at those tentacles.
This is their tentacles. They're zombie Eldrazi processors, and they're gonna process your deck too. It's gonna be awesome.
And it's so much. It is actually fun to play against, because if you played against it already, it's like a thriller, because you know what's coming.
I used to loan this deck to people and then just be like, well, here we go.
If they know how to play it, then they know exactly what to do.
Yeah, this is the deck that I would loan out the most often, because it was like super blinged, and you get to run fun stuff like Root Water Thief. Like,
and it rewards you for like knowing the game and knowing what people like to play, because you get to kind of be like, which one of you is like who can play for the game, who's my bestie.
Who's the one I'm being parasitic off of? The lands are pretty basic. There's nothing really going on fancy with the lands. We're trying to keep a lot of islands and things that are also islands in their type, like Sunken Hollow, in our decks so that we can high tide, because high tide is super important. Usually my opponents are running something that untaps lands or something that makes mana, and high tide is a good way to get to that. Or it's just a nice ritual to have a big turn. We put a bunch of stuff into play. And we're running stuff like Windfall and Whispering Madness too, just because
wheels are great.
Yeah, wheeling is really good with a graveyard commander.
If you've ever seen an Elder Drunken Highlander deck, you know that we don't just draw cards generally. We wheel.
Yeah, wheels are
everyone
really
or
good.
Just ourselves. Doesn't matter. We like wheeling.
Especially because people in casual like enjoy sculpting hands for like the long game, which is like, I don't know. I
just use my graveyard.
Yeah, I'll punish that with wheels if someone's like, I'm gonna put this card in my hand now to use 3 turns later. All right, buddy. Or like, I'm gonna keep this opening hand on the back of this turn 6 play. Nah, you should have kept it on the back of your turn 2 play. I'm wheeling you.
You only keep what you're gonna use.
Yeah, so I have a very like all-in greedy play style, and wheels help punish people who don't also share my philosophy, and that helps affirm my play style and make me feel better about myself. And we're not going to talk about whether or not it's actually good. I just talked about why I like it.
I just like resource denial.
It's not resource denial. You're giving your opponents 21 free cards. No, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
It depends on what you're doing with those cards. I used to play Nekuzar. I digress. We're getting off track. This deck is super fun and rewards you for knowing your playgroup, and also just kind of knowing the game in general, like having like a little bit of meta knowledge about like what can I find in these kinds of decks. So yeah, it adds a little layer to the play, and it's very demure, very flavorful and strong.
Yeah, it's really fun to play, and just like it rewards you just having a shitload of mana and sitting on it and doing everything at the last minute, which is like the control play style for sure, and the play style that I really enjoy in Commander. You can't really do it in competitive Commander that much, but in casual Commander, oh yeah, you can do it. And decks like this let you do it.
This deck basically makes me think, somebody asks you, what does your deck do? And you're just like,
what does your deck do?
Exactly.
I don't know. You hang up. Yeah, so this is Uno reverse tribal basically. Thank you guys for watching this deck tech. It was really fun to make. It was really fun to play this deck when I played it, and now that I have but it's probably like, I don't know, probably only like 10 cards off from the deck list when I had it in paper. This version I like added some things that are new, and that's really it. Like Plague Crafter wasn't out last time I played this deck,
and a couple of the Edict boys. They're new.
Yeah, and other than that, and a lot of good 2-mana rocks. I got to cut some 3-mana rocks, but yeah, it's more or less the same deck that I've been playing since the Scarab God got printed, and I probably took it apart right before the pandemic.
Yeah,
I played it for like 2 years.
Classic deck.
Anyway, we're rambling. If you enjoyed the video, let us know.
Like, subscribe, share, and visit our Mox field. We've got hundreds of thousands?
Hundreds of decks.
Hundreds of decks.
Actually,
straight up.
Austin goes way too hard making
If I like something, I'm just going to make a deck.
If we unlisted everything on our Mox field, we would have...
It would be up there.
There'd be too many things.
So, yeah, check it out. It's always growing, and there's probably something for you in there, just like this. Or like any of the other videos that may or may not come out soon.
Yeah, and if you like a deck, you can just like load up OBS and use the Moxfield playtester and play it on our Discord, where we play games sometimes and talk about decks like this one. And we also have a Twitter.
Yep. So tweet at us.
Yeah. you can see me talking shit.
Absolutely. And remember,
Untap, upkeep, drink.
Yes.
Heck yeah.